Here is the first of a series of short, well, I hope they're going to be short, tutorials outlining what we covered yesterday. So that was pretty much all day we spent in MASH. It was lots of fun. And so I'm going to start with the basics of setting up a MASH network, and also that little finicky workflow of applying the color per vertex node or the color node with an Arnold standard surface shader. So let's get started. I'll save my file and call it MASH intro. I don't know if I've got one going yet. There we go. MASH intro. I've already set my project, so I'm good to go for that. I'm going to, just to begin, I'm going to set up a sphere, a small sphere. I might just take let me see, the countdown to about, something like so. That looks okay to me. Just simplify the geometry a little bit. I then go to my FX menu, or I can go to MASH here. So FX menu or MASH, either which way, and go create MASH network. So if you open up the the little options there, the options box, the one thing to note is that the kind of important thing is that it's either a mesh or an instancer. I think for the most part we'll probably stay as mesh, and here you can set the distribution type, but you can change it later on, so it doesn't really matter. And you can change the network name here if you like. Now MASH is fine. So I'll go apply and close, and I'm going to open up my outliner. Let's open that up, and I'm just going to try and dock that on the side there. Let me do that. Let me try that. Oh, almost got it. Sorry. Okay. So in the outliner, you can see I've got a MASH 1 network, and it's got a few nodes in it. 1, 2, or MASH 1 waiter, where I can select the different nodes that I want to add to this network. A MASH 1 distribute, where I can do my initial distribution and offsets, rotates, and scales. And the MASH 1 repro, which is where MASH has taken that sphere, this sphere here, and incorporated it in the repro node here, and then reproduced it the 10 number of times that we've got allocated here in the, let me have a look in the MASH 1 distribute. I think it's got 10. Yeah, there's 10 numbers. So, excuse me. So that's the start. Notice how as well that the sphere that I created, the initial sphere, has been hidden. All right. So, excuse me. So to start, actually what I might do is I might just turn off the MASH network and go H and show the sphere. And I'm going to add a Arnold standard surface shader. Sorry, something's going on here with an Arnold standard surface shader. Sorry, not sure what's happening there. Some sort of sound. So to do that, I'll just go right click, assign favorite material, put in a standard surface, find the thing. I'll just give it any color right now. It doesn't really matter. I can make it green, just for the sake of being able to see that I've got a color on there. And then I'll hide that, and I'll turn my MASH node on. Let's see if it's brought it over. I can do that here. Yeah, and I've got this standard surface shader on the 10 copies. Okay, cool. So we've got that. Now, the other thing I'd like to talk about is the MASH editor. It's just here, MASH editor. And if I click that, I'll get another window. I'll just dock that down here. I like it to be just there. This is a very handy way to think of it as a way in which you're going to navigate around your MASH network. And what it will show you as I keep adding things in from the MASH 1 waiter, or which I can access here on the right, or I can access down here, with the little texts that tell you what they are. As I keep adding things, they'll turn up kind of as layers, and I can move those layers around. I can so sometimes you might need to move the layers around. So let's look at the distribution options first. So at this point I've got 10, and I've got a distribution type of linear. I can have radial, which gives me this. I can have spherical, which sort of doesn't look like it's making much sense there, but if I bump up the number of points to 500, you'll see that it's sort of trying to make a circle there, a sphere from spheres. So spherical. I can have mesh, which I'll talk about in a minute, and I can have grid. And the grid is kind of nice because you can go, look, I want 5 in the X, I want 5 in the Y, and I want 5 in the in the Z. And then you get a kind of a cube of, or a cube of a cube of objects. You can also change their distance. So there we go. I'm changing the distance there. If I set that to 10, 10, 10, and you can see I can change the distance there. So there's all sorts of things we can do there. I'll set that back to 5, I think. Okay. So once we've got our MASH network and we've got a distribution sorted out, what can we do with it? So let's go and add. Let's start by adding I'll add a random node, probably one of the easiest things to add. So I add in a random node here, and this will randomize things like the position XYZ, rotation XYZ, and the scale XYZ. And it's already put some values on position there, and you can see the effect that that's having on that grid. So we can sort of change these, something like this, so get a more interesting or organic start point for our animation. Okay, cool. We can also change the rotations. Let's do something like that. There we go. That's looking kind of funky now, right? The other thing is that you may want to move this. So if I select my MASH1 repro Nash and go W, and I get a node, a widget to pull it up and down, you'll see that if I pull it up, or in any direction in fact, nothing happens. Excuse me, so sorry about this. You'll see that nothing happens. Okay, so how do we fix that? What we do is we've got to go in here and we're going to add and there's a couple of things to do. We're going to add a transform node, and you can see my nodes are now building up here. And in the transform node section, I can move the X, Y, Z positions around, or the rotations, or the scales. So let's move this up 10 and see what happens. And there it goes. What we expect is expected. But if we want to do it with a handle, then you've got to right-click in the controller null and go create. And now you get this handle, which is actually this MASH1 transform locator. This MASH1 transform locator, and I can use this to manipulate, you know, the origins or wherever my MASH network is sitting in space. Alrighty, so that's how you're going to go about changing things. Now we want to let's get some animation happening. So one of the things I showed you in class was the noise or the signal. So let's go add a signal node, and in the signal node it defaults to this thing called 4D noise. I'll play that for you. Let's have a look. And we get that. Go around that. Let's have a look. And we can play with the position X, the position Z, the position Y, to get different effects. So that's how the positions are affected by this noise. This is how the rotations are affected. And then scale is I've got it on uniform scale, but let's have a look. So there's scale there. Okay. So let me stop that. Oh, then down here I can change the noise. I can go looping noise. So at the moment it's not looping. Let's set this to looping. And if that's too slow, let me get that size down a little bit. If that's too slow, I can speed things up by going into the noise settings and upping the octaves. So let's go to 4. Now we're starting to go a little bit faster. Let's try 8. This is for looping noise. This will be way whack fast for any of the other ones. Look, I'll flip it over. So that's 8 on the looping noise. That looks quite nice. It's got a. But if I go and change this over to let's try this one. Wow, what is going on there? All right, so I'll leave you to play with this. You can get different effects from this. So I'll stop that. I'll go back to my looping noise. And I'm going to stop this video, and then I'm going to start. I'll start the next video and concentrate on the color per vertex thing, because it's a little bit of a workflow. So let me stop this here.